Hey everyone. Welcome back to the channel. We've got a story today that will shock you to your core. A routine grocery run turns into a full-blown scandal. You won't believe what happens next. Stick around, hit that like button, subscribe, and help us keep bringing the truth to light. Mike Tyson had faced countless opponents in the ring, but none quite like Karen Thompson. The way she squared up to him, the venom in her voice, it wasn't about a parking space. It was something deeper, something uglier. "You people never follow the rules," she sneered, stepping even closer. "You think you can just take whatever you want. You don't belong in neighborhoods like this." Mike's fists clenched at his sides. He could feel the heat rising in his chest, the familiar surge of adrenaline that always came before a fight. But this wasn't a boxing ring. There were no gloves, no referees, just him and a woman who thought she could get away with anything. "Ma'am, I don't want any trouble," he said, his voice calm but firm. "It's just a parking spot." Karen let out a cruel laugh, her face twisting with mockery. "Oh, now you want to be polite? Please. I know your type." She jabbed a finger into his chest. "Entitled. Violent. Thinkin' the rules don't apply to you." Mike inhaled sharply. He had learned long ago that the real power wasn't in throwing the first punch, it was in knowing when to walk away. He turned to head toward the store. But Karen wasn't done. Before he could take a full step, she lunged forward and shoved him hard. Mike stumbled, catching himself just before falling. A wave of disbelief crashed over him. She had put her hands on him. A deadly silence fell between them. Karen's breath was ragged, her chest heaving. She was looking at him like she had already won. She had no idea what she had just done. Mike Tyson wasn't a man who let things slide. He had spent his life fighting, both inside the ring and outside of it. But this was something else. The sheer arrogance, the raw hatred in Karen Thompson's eyes, it stoked a fire inside him that had been smoldering for years. She had shoved him. She had crossed the line. Mike took a deep breath, steadying himself. He knew how this worked. A black man, standing up to a white woman's aggression. That could turn ugly fast. He had seen it happen before. "Lady," he said, voice tight with restraint, "I don't know what your problem is, but I suggest you walk away before you do something you'll regret." Karen's eyes flared with pure, unfiltered rage. She let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Regret?" she spat. "Oh, I don't regret a damn thing." And then, before he could react, her hand flew through the air. The slap cracked across Mike's face, the sound echoing through the parking lot like a gunshot. A few people gasped nearby. Someone whispered, but nobody moved. The moment hung heavy in the air, thick with shock. Mike stood frozen for a second, his jaw tightening, his skin burning where her hand had struck. His mind flashed back to every moment in his life when he had been disrespected, when people had tested him, pushed him, thought they could get away with it. He had always held back. But not this time. With deliberate control, he raised his hand and delivered a slap of his own. Not out of anger. Not out of malice. But to make damn sure she understood, she was not untouchable. Karen Thompson staggered back, her hand flying to her cheek as if she had just been struck by lightning. Her eyes widened in pure disbelief, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. You hit me," she shrieked, her voice climbing into a hysterical pitch. "How dare you? Do you know who I am?" Mike Tyson didn't flinch. His face remained unreadable, but his pulse pounded in his ears. He had given her exactly what she deserved, a fraction of the humiliation she had tried to inflict on him. The tension in the parking lot was suffocating. The few bystanders who had witnessed the slap stood frozen, their expressions ranging from shock to quiet approval. A couple of them pulled out their phones, cameras pointed directly at Karen as she clutched her face like it was shattered glass. Karen turned in wild desperation, scanning the crowd for someone, anyone, to come to her defense. Then, with the precision of a seasoned manipulator, she threw herself into full performance mode. "He assaulted me," she wailed, staggering back like a damsel in distress. "This thug attacked me." Mike exhaled through his nose, shaking his head. He had seen this playbook before. The shift from aggressor to victim. The crocodile tears. The frantic cries for help. She was banking on the age-old narrative, white woman in distress, black man the villain. "You hit me first," he said, his voice low, even. "And you damn well know it." But Karen wasn't listening. She was already dialing her phone, her hands shaking with theatrical fury. The words that left her lips sent an icy chill down Mike's spine. "I need the police. Now. There's a violent black man attacking me in the parking lot." Mike felt the weight of history crashing down on him. This wasn't over. It was only just beginning. Mike Tyson stood there, jaw clenched, as Karen Thompson played her most dangerous card. She wasn't just lying, she was weaponizing her privilege. The words, "violent black man," hung in the air like a loaded gun, aimed straight at his chest. Mike knew how quickly things could spiral. He wasn't just any black man, he was Mike Tyson, a living legend, a fighter with a reputation. And Karen? She was counting on that. She wanted the world to see a monster, to erase the truth of what had happened and replace it with a version where she was the victim. Mike's hands curled into fists at his sides, not in anger, but in frustration. He had done nothing wrong. Yet, he knew how this would look the second the cops arrived. A few people in the parking lot muttered among themselves. Some still had their phones out, recording everything. Mike hoped they caught every second of Karen's act because once the cops got here, the truth might not matter. Karen stomped her foot, still clutching her cheek. "He attacked me," she shrieked into the phone. "I'm scared for my life." Mike took a slow step back, forcing himself to breathe. He wasn't going to run. That would be playing right into her hands. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his own phone. "You want to call the cops?" he said, locking eyes with her. "Fine. Let's call them." Karen's smug expression faltered. "I want them to see the footage," he continued, nodding toward the bystanders. "Because I promise you, Karen, you just made the biggest mistake of your life." Her face paled for the first time. And in that moment, for the first time, she was the one who looked scared. The distant wail of sirens pierced the air, growing louder with every second. Mike Tyson stood tall, unshaken, while Karen Thompson's breath came in ragged gasps, her frantic energy shifting from rage to unease. The police cars screeched to a stop, lights flashing, drawing all eyes to the scene. Officers stepped out, hands hovering over their holsters, scanning the situation. Karen, ever the performer, immediately sprang into action. "Officer! Officer!" she wailed, running toward them with exaggerated panic. "That man attacked me. He hit me in the face. I was just trying to park, and he went crazy." One officer, his expression unreadable, turned to Mike. "Sir, keep your hands where we can see them." Mike inhaled sharply, but he did as he was told, raising his hands slightly. He had been in enough fights to know when the real battle was about to begin. "She's lying," he said, voice calm but firm. "She hit me first. And there are witnesses." Karen let out a dramatic gasp. "That's ridiculous. Look at me. Do I look like someone who would just hit a stranger?" Mike let out a bitter laugh. "Yes." The bystanders stepped forward. "I recorded everything," a woman in a blue dress said, holding up her phone. "She slapped him first." Another man, arms crossed, added, she was yelling racist stuff at him before she even touched him. We all saw it. One officer took the phone, watching the footage. Karen's smug confidence crumbled as her own voice played back, clear, undeniable. "You don't belong here." Then, the slap. Then, Mike's measured response. The air in the parking lot turned electric as realization dawned on the officers. One officer turned to Karen. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault." Karen's face drained of color. What? Mike watched as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. This time, she was the one being dragged away.